All right, great. Welcome to the February 28th, 2024 meeting of the Town Manlius Police Committee. Instructions for participation are on the agenda online. Anybody on Zoom, it doesn't look like it. Just a small mighty group here in the room. I wanted to ask Councilman Sheehy.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thanks, everybody. Because these meetings are recorded and posted for later viewing, and there are some new faces in the room with me this time, I'd like to go around and just quickly introduce who you are and why you're here, or who you're representing. Who am I, Dan?
Dan Kinsella of over Fayetteville, hopefully continuing on.
Mike Massey with the Town Manlius Board.
I'm William Nicholson, one of the town councilors.
John Champagne, Deputy Mayor of Manlius.
Allison Weber, Police Committee Secretary and Town Clerk.
Carrie Gervais, Deputy Clerk.
Jason Casalia, Chief of Police.
And on Zoom, we have Tom. This is a good time as any to test if we can hear each other.
Tom Paluski, Village of Manlius.
So thank you. Can you hear us fine?
Yeah, a little muffled, so it's going to keep me on my toes to pay attention.
We'll talk loud. All right, folks. So a couple things we want to get started with right away. This committee is tasked with a pretty large number of duties. So broken it out into a plan for the year. If you take a look at the document that's been provided to you, it's provided online, but Carrie's been nice enough to print us copies for tonight. These are the duties assigned to the police committee through the intermunicipal agreement. And so I would like this to be a template for this committee's activities going forward to make sure that we are meeting our obligations and our duties, and respectful of the fact that it is a lot to do in a very short period of time with meetings. Well, we're going to discuss the meeting schedule momentarily, but I just wanted everybody to kind of get acclimated to the responsibilities of this police committee moving forward and the steps that we'll be taking. But first and foremostly, so that I can cheerfully pass this gavel along, we need to talk about the election of the chair of this committee, because I am merely sitting here for the time being. Do we want to discuss the process for the election coming up, or do we want to just go through with the election for the interim period?
I leave that entirely up to you. I could, if you want to, I could take this moment to talk about sort of the proposed guidelines, just because I don't think, this is kind of the first time the committee's really seen them tonight.
Yeah.
Let everybody review them, and I could place them on the next agenda as well. And we do have, we actually already have one allocated to them, so.
Great. All right, let's do that.
All right, so this is actually number 7 on the agenda, but it is the draft of the chair election process. Given the fact that it was something new that we were doing here at the Town Manlius, but then also something new that the police committee itself was doing, I went out and I looked around to all different types of committees, and if they, just whatever I could find on the internet, and how they did the process of electing a chair. There was some discussion about whether or not we were going to kind of do a vote by a show of hands, but that didn't make a lot of sense because there's really only 5 members, and should 2 people be vying for the position, that would really reduce and the number of people who could vote, and then what order do you do it in, how does that happen? So ultimately I landed on what I thought would be a ballot process. Whoever the secretary is at the time will have ballots prepared ahead of time. It'll just be simple. You can write somebody in and everybody will write them down, hold up a piece of paper, pass them along to the secretary. There'll be a brief adjournment just to kind of give the secretary, without a lot of pressure, to kind of open them up, count them, make a tally without everyone staring at them in silence, because that can be a little uncomfortable. Everybody will come back, and then she'll read out who what the votes were. In there, I tried to take into account too that the villages have a different election cycle than the town. And I wanted to give the villages a chance to be able to nominate somebody as chair that might be newly elected to a position of trustee. So I set the term for police committee chair from June 1st to May 31st, just to, like I said, give you guys a chance for that as well. I know that's a little tricky given the fact that we're doing this here in February, so however the committee wants to address that, maybe this first term would be, February to May 31st, or maybe you want to do it again in May, I don't know. I added in a section that the police committee secretary will notify the town board and the village boards of that election timeline, just that it's coming up and that it will be happening, just so that the trustees and the mayors are aware of it as well. And then also when we set the dates for the year, for the meetings and the time, that would be communicated to the village clerk so that you can get it up on your websites and your bulletin boards, and village residents will be able to have access to those meetings times as well at those outlets where they probably regularly interact with their most direct form of local government. I think that's pretty much all of the highlights. But we did run into one thing in here. I had seen a lot out there about no proxy votes. I really didn't have a feeling on it either way, but I put it in there because I did find it in a lot of guidelines. And then we immediately ran into the situation where we needed a proxy here tonight because member chef is actually works for the highway department and we have a big storm coming and he needs to be on call for that. So if everybody's okay with that, I will just take that out, the no proxy vote, just to allow for that to happen as well.
I think that's a good idea because a lot of times, sometimes if Dan can't make it, he'll have somebody come in, same as Tom. Or when I was on it, Bobby would come in for me. It's always good because something could come up where we're not able to make it, so you should be able to have a proxy to come in and handle it because
Sure, yeah.
it makes sense, because maybe you won't be able to be here, or, Mike might not be able to be here. Somebody would stand in for you.
So I'll remove, under number 4, voting, I'll remove line C, which says only committee members of good standing shall be eligible to vote. There will be no proxy voting. And like I said, I know this is the first time the committee has seen this, and this is a very new procedure for all of us. So I thought I'd circulate it this time, get feedback, and then if the committee would be willing to adopt it at the next meeting, that would lay the groundwork for future secretaries and future members and chairpersons to have a process to follow.
So what process are we following to do the election tonight?
Well,
Past practice?
No, so there is no past practice, because this has never happened before, so that was part of the issue. There is only one member put forward tonight, which is member Paluski, and so I have not heard or received anything from anybody else, and so unless there was another nomination from the floor, I think it would be relatively easy tonight to do that by voice motion.
Sure, yeah, just for full clarity, I would ask trustee Paluski, are you still interested in serving in the chair as chair of this committee?
I am, but have concerns about my ability to always be in that boardroom because I work in Norwich and that's where I am zooming in from at this moment. Summertime meetings would not be an issue, but looking at the schedule, that means fall and winter, very, very difficult for me to get there in person. So that is my only concern.
You can always add a clause to the chairperson duties that the chair can either chair by Zoom if you want to, or you could also, and this is me just off the top of my head, you could also let the chair defer to someone else, yes, and that happens. There was a time where the town supervisor couldn't be in person, and so the deputy supervisor ran
That
the
happens
meetings.
a lot.
Yeah.
We have conflicts, we got certain things I'll go in
Yeah,
for the mayor.
that's entirely, like I said, I started from a blank slate, so whatever you want that reflects.
Yeah, and speaking as one individual member of the group, I'm comfortable with that. If Mr. Paluski is comfortable with it as well, that I believe has capacity to run this committee by Zoom or in person, or accessing a delegate if necessary.
Sure.
And anybody else?
I'm not opposed to it either. I mean, I work out of the county a lot of times, and others work out of the county a lot of times, and I appreciate when Zoom's available so that we can.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll add a clause to chair duties that the chair can that chair and members can participate by Zoom if need be, and the chair could delegate responsibilities to an in-person member if they wish to. Does that sound
So
acceptable?
just say virtual in case we change platform?
Yeah, yes, sorry, but however we say that,
Sounds good to me.
the only other thing I might add in there is the town board did adopt guidelines related to voting, if a member is virtual, just meaning that you have to be out for work is a very acceptable reason, and there were some others, just that you have to raise your hand when you're voting, and maybe I will let maybe we do something where the committee sort of adopts or defers to those guidelines as well.
Okay, so with that, I believe I made the original motion to nominate Mr. Felicity as the chair of this police committee.
I'll second that.
Who calls it all in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I didn't see your hand.
Hey, I was just gonna say, it's not, you know.
Congratulations.
Yes.
So with that, this committee has its official chair for 24, and let's see, from the election process.
I think next we needed to talk about the dates and times, and we had,
4 meetings.
yes, yep.
Okay, so this is what highlighted for us earlier this week, that the new intermunicipal agreement refers to this committee meeting monthly, where we've not been meeting monthly, we've been meeting every other month, sometimes not even that. So, our meeting schedule that we had pre-approved is not valid anymore, so we need to reapprove our meeting dates for the year. Tom, you get priority selection here.
Currently, they are the second Wednesday of the month at 5 p.m., immediately preceding the board meeting.
So selfishly,
Go ahead, what was that now? You lost me.
Currently, they are the second
Second
Wednesday
Wednesday.
of the month, yes.
Right, and then it's prior to your.
Yes, they just immediately precede it.
Right.
anybody have any issues or concerns with that schedule? The second or fourth?
I'm sorry, the 4th, you're right. Workshops are the second. Thank you.
I'm looking at these dates and I was like, you got it down there.
Great, what are we doing here on the 4th Wednesday, Allison? Thank you. See, he knows. Yeah, he speaks Allison, he knows. That's exactly what I meant.
All right.
So you're gonna stay in a schedule that's every other month is what we're basically doing, right?
So
Back to back and every other month of summer.
the newly approved,
Yeah, this is.
the agreement,
Okay, so that's not, this was,
yeah, the agreement says that the committee would meet monthly.
okay.
So,
This is out the window when I can cross
Is
it.
anyone looking at wanting to amend that back to every other month, is there, might hear a little bit?
well, I was gonna speak, and I was gonna yell at Tom through the screen that I would highly recommend if we do go to the greater frequency, that just make one of them a virtual meeting.
I can go live in any event, so if you didn't want to be physically present, these meetings can go live and be broadcast whether there's people in this room or not.
Gotcha.
So what you're saying, basically, well, is if you do one in person, and the next month you're doing virtual, then you're doing in person and then virtual.
It's an idea.
The only thing I have to double check is that the public is allowed to attend this, but they could attend they could attend, I guess, virtually as well. I don't know the rules on that. Off the top of my head, now I wish Joe was here.
Tom, you're,
I, I think it's always better to meet in person, but I was on this committee years ago and we only met every 2 months and, you know, it's a different time, I realize, and the whole idea of police is very different than it was 10 years ago. So if the new agreement says we meet monthly, but I'm wondering, does this committee have the authority to say if there is no business, we don't meet? Or is it, we've got to follow it and we're gonna meet no matter what?
I think we have broad,
There was
Authority.
some wiggle room. I'm gonna pull the agreement up right now, and I know right where the clause is that,
I would be happy to take it back to the village of Fayetteville and amend that, so it's every 2 months.
yeah,
And if needed.
it says, well, that's almost how the agreement reads. It says that the police committee will convene monthly or as it deems
Yes.
Okay,
appropriate. So,
so we go 2 months, I think, village of Fayetteville would agree with the 2 months.
do we want to float that then? And in which case your schedule is accurate?
Unless,
yes,
well,
the
all right.
originally approved schedule, I think.
From what that says, this committee has the choice to do that. We don't have to bring it back to the village board. Us as a committee can vote on this right now,
Correct.
according to that, so we don't need to bring it back. We're here to represent our village anyway, so it would be up to us to make that decision. Mr. Chair?
Agreed.
Agreed. Okay, so my consideration on that, and I agree, I think it's a good idea to kind of keep it on the bi-monthly meetings. We're taking on a significant amount of work, so we're gonna get to that in a moment and sort of prioritizing what we want to do so that these meetings are productive and, service the mission of the agreement. So, okay.
So let me say what we've already approved. Last December, the previous sitting committee approved February, April, June, August, October, and December.
Yep.
That was not yet published in the paper because that was kind of when our attorney pulled the brakes and said, hey, that's not what the agreement said. So I've published meeting to meeting at this point. I can now publish based on what you're saying and on the previous motion, I can publish those dates. You don't need to do anything else because I already have a motion authorizing me to do that. Should you want, let's say you guys get into it and you want to, you realize, hey, we do need a meeting.
Yep.
If everyone's comfortable with the town board, setting it, passing a motion to call the meeting itself, that would give me the authority to publish it in the paper and put in an extra
Yeah,
meeting.
outside of our posted schedule, yeah.
Yeah.
Meet the posting requirements, for open.
I don't have a problem with that. I think that's good, and that'll allow you to keep us going. If we need to have that meeting, you'll be able to post it, get us in our correct time frame, so we can have that meeting.
Sure.
I would rather take this back to my village board.
So you guys are published for, so I'll go ahead on the last motion and I can publish for the April meeting,
I mean,
right?
yeah, if you want to vote on this the next time, I can go back after I've explained to them how to change.
All right, so I got confused for a second.
It's up
So
to you, if somebody
it's-
wants to make a motion.
It's February, so let's set a date then for the March meeting, unless you guys want to wait until April.
Well, Tom, are you comfortable? I'm comfortable of going, sticking to our regular meeting schedule every other
Yeah.
month. I mean, I want to know how you feel about it, because you're the one that's got with the fact that you're going to be gone and not maybe it'll make the every month.
Well, I will make it via Zoom, but as chair, I would prefer to be there when possible. I'm okay with the every other month. However, I haven't looked at the scope of how the committee is going to change. The past is not the present, so I still would prefer to go with every other month with the option of saying, hey, we need another meeting next month, as long as that's not going to provide too much work for Allison.
I'm fine.
That,
Yeah.
I think that's the right way to go, because there might be that month that in between where we do need to meet. So I'm fine with that time also.
Do you want to meet in March or do you want to wait until April?
I think.
I think, like I said, if you're fine with it, I mean, I can bring it up if you will to do it, or you want to make the motion, I'll second it, it doesn't matter, and then we can vote on it, and we can go from there.
I was just going to say that I think it's quite likely during budget review that we may need to meet in September. But again, without looking at the details of the scope of our responsibilities compared to the past, I'm fine. And if a motion is needed, I'll make the motion that we stick with the schedule as outlined. But we also have the ability to meet as needed in the interim.
Yeah, I'll second that, I agree.
I already have the authority to publish the every other month schedule, so you
Okay.
guys don't have to do anything in that regard. Only if you want to meet in March do I would need somebody to authorize that.
Okay, but basically, we're just simply restating that the previously posted schedule is, we're gonna stick with
We'll
it.
stick with that, and then if we need to have another meeting,
Yeah.
then we'll be able to have another meeting,
But that's a good, it seems very picayune, but it's nice to have dissected out this piece that didn't comport with the IMA, with the agreement. You know, we found something that, wait, that's not actually how it's gonna work.
And I'm also thinking that I might not need town board authority. I just realized, the town supervisor calls, meetings, special meetings. So maybe if we wrote something into the chair duties that authorized them to call a meeting and the secretary to publish it in the paper, that could also be acceptable, as well.
and that would make things easier to keep the
Sure.
process going, so
Yeah.
we just add that into it.
Okay, I'll add a clause in there to that. I think it would work the same way. I've got to run all this past Joe because I'm mostly just going on my knowledge of town law, so.
Yeah, I want to see it go by.
Well, we got a motion in a second. All right, well, we gotta bring this to a vote then. We had a motion and I seconded, so.
I think Allison just said we don't need to vote on this, right? So I withdraw my motion.
Yes, back in December, the previous, committee approved the every other
The
month
month, okay,
schedule. I just
okay.
didn't publish it in
All
the
right,
paper.
all right, so then we're not changing nothing then. It was already approved.
Correct.
Okay, gotcha.
Yep.
Gotcha.
That was approved after the IMA was signed or prior to?
After,
After?
yeah, it was in December.
Oh, it was December 20th. It was an hour and a half before the IMA was signed.
Okay. I just wanted to be clear.
Yeah.
Okay, so. All right, has anybody had the opportunity to review the minutes, and does anyone have any issue with the minutes of the January 24th meeting? If not, looking for a motion to accept the minutes.
I wasn't here, I can't vote.
Abstain.
I'm abstaining as well because I wasn't on the committee.
Well, I'll second it, but actually the chairman could say that the minutes are approved without a vote. According to Robert's Rules of Order, I guess that's what we go with.
I was
Yeah.
also not at the last meeting, so I have to abstain from approving them.
Table that then. Minutes next time. How's that sound? Take
Minutes
care of
never
that.
legally have to be approved, so that's fine. That's the rule for
Yeah.
town clerk.
I'm just making sure everybody reads them.
Yeah.
Actually, it could be just accepted by the chairman.
All right, before we get on to the next thing, I want everybody, let's take a look at the work plan, okay? Tom, did you get a chance to look at anything online with the agenda that came through? Is it possible we can share the document on
Just give
screen?
me 1 second.
Okay, we'll pull it up on screen, Tom. Can you hear that, Tom? That's the wind shaking the room here. Wow. Holy cow.
I cannot. It's gonna be a fun ride home, huh?
Oh, yeah. Can you see the document up there? Good. Okay, so what we're looking at here is just a basic blueprint for this committee moving forward. We had discussed, actually, we're going to change at the top there. We can now say to be determined is actually Tom Paluski. Trustee Paluski is the chair and a voting member. This committee has discussed several times in the past the inclusion of school district representation. So this is not a decision that any individual here gets to make, but as a committee, we should be discussing it. Who, you know, I would like to put that on the table. And then the meeting schedule is the second section there, which we've just talked about. I penciled in green because, again, the intermunicipal agreement requires this committee to review the department budget. And that we've had great discussion about that and the logistics of getting that done on time with the limited meetings that we have scheduled. So I penciled them in for the August and October meeting. Just, again, this is just a blueprint and all of this can change. And then on to the real meat of the matter here, which is what you're seeing under the third section here, which goes on for a couple more pages, is just the systematic one by one description of what are the responsibilities of this committee. And taken straight from the IMA section 3. So each one here has a section where we can review what we want to do. And for my goal tonight was to come up with a priority schedule here. What does this committee want to take on first? Who does it want to be responsible for leading that effort? And when do we want to see results? So my personal recommendation was for 3 items that we were kind of working on already. The very last one, 3H, to formulate rules of procedure or otherwise for the conduct of its business as the committee shall deem necessary. Clerk Weber has helped us with the election of the chair process, but this is a matter of, these are things that will continue to be necessary here. I think that's a priority, but again, I'm just one person. This committee had previously been looking at the chief job description, so we should be getting our hands back into that. And then the general orders reviewing, understanding the rules and regulations of the department, which is the first order of the IMA. Providing input on the content and enforcement of said rules and regulations. So way back when, there was some review of general orders going on. And so that's the bulk of the work plan there. And then the next section is just the routine matters from each meeting of this committee, where there will be a department report, any input from the villages, any input from the town, and then theoretically school district if we have representation joining us here. And then the last bit is just attendance. I'm keeping track of who's at these meetings. So with that said, does anyone have questions about what I just said or the point and purpose of the work plan? It's really to address the specific points of the IMA in a planful and strategic way.
So William, it's a living document?
Correct.
Yeah, carry along with us and help guide us in what we do for the...
Exactly. For example, all members of the committee aren't necessarily going to be reviewing general orders, and we won't all be doing the same thing. If we're going to be effective over the course of the year and producing good output. So that's my spiel. Any questions or opinions or rants and raves?
Member Kinsella has been a part of this group for a long time.
Yes,
from my perspective, it's just different wording of what the committee has done in the past. But I'll defer to his experience and his reading of the document. It looks okay to me.
I'll move forward,
Okay, and to be honest, it's literally just cut and paste from the IMA. That's it. It's literally just a way to document that this committee is actually doing its duties. That's all. Can I ask the loaded question? Where would we like to point our attention first as a committee? Where would we like to sink in first, and who would like to take the lead on any of these items? And Tom, as chair, you can volunteer people.
Easy for you to say when I am an hour and 5 minutes away.
I don't mind volunteering to take on the general orders review. I mean, it's something I was peripherally involved with previously.
Right now, it's hard for, sorry about that, I'm just getting a message. Letting me know I got a budget meeting. I can't, let's talk for Bobby what he wants to do, you know, I mean, if it was me still on it, I know what I would do, but I can't speak for him.
You don't want to bind Bobby to something?
I don't want to bind Bobby to something.
So let me just clarify, William, so I'm looking at this, obviously, I have experience with my job, looking at like personnel matters, employee engaging, so on, section 3.c. What's expected of, you know, if I say, hey, I'll look into that portion, what, you're opening the agreement and going through the agreement, or we're actually requesting of the department personnel policies and procedures and reviewing those? So what's the expectation of us raising our hand right now and saying, hey, I'll do that?
So I highlighted it's not up on the screen anymore. So I highlighted the items that to me and to my estimation would involve actual activity now. Like what you're referencing as sections 3C is not highlighted. And I read, the reason is I read that as a matter of it's, well, an incident related, you know, that something has come up, a personnel issue has come, a personnel matter has come up for the committee to contemplate. I don't see it as a action to be taken today.
I don't want to commit to anything. I have an election coming up and I may not be here 2 months from now.
Dan, you're a fixture in Fayetteville, you ain't going anywhere.
Okay.
I hear that. Okay. Understood.
Be in the question that, or be in a situation, should I say, that you've got Thompson, he's out of town right now. Dan's worried about his election and I'm filling in for Bobby. Is this something that maybe should be tabled until the next meeting?
Absolutely. I think this is, as Mr. Neshi said, this is a working document. This is just going to be the way to report out on what we're working on, what we're doing moving forward. And if today it's you got stupid Nicholson volunteering to do some projects, then okay, you know.
Well, you know, at least you got one out of the way. We can cross that off. And then
Here's John recommending a motion that I would follow up with so moved. No problem saying that.
I crossed that one off.
So, okay, yeah, that's good. That makes sense, right? Yeah, we'll continue to revisit the work plan, the blueprint going forward.
Tom?
Comfortable with that?
I'm very comfortable with that, but as a fan of democracy, I see any of this stuff that comes up in those responsibilities, the whole committee is gonna make recommendations and come to conclusions and advise and counsel together. I understand we want a point person, but I also noticed on that document, it says member with an S in parentheses. So to my way of thinking, whoever's at that meeting is going to be providing input.
Yeah, and of course, this body can't make any action steps without a consensus, right? Cool. All right, I think we're settled on the blueprint for the year. Thank you, everybody, for your patience and diligence here. And I think I'm looking at the right agenda. That takes us to Chief.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'll start off with some really good news that we're promoting one of our police officers to police sergeant tomorrow at 3 o'clock.
Great.
Hope you can attend. I pushed that out and I realize how busy everyone is, but thank you to Allison for pushing that out to the committee. Officer Louis Dashno has been with us since 2014. And he's currently assigned in the field service section. He's an FTO, he's an evidence technician, he's an instructor. He's very well regarded within our organization, and I'm very excited to have him as a part of our supervisor contract. So that's tomorrow. We have, I think some of you, we talked about it before, the Chief's Business Advisory Committee that we started not too long ago. And we had our first meeting, and part of that first meeting was addressing some of the issues in which that our businesses within our villages and town that attended are having. And that's exactly what we want to do, is to have them provide information to me, to the agency, so that we can have just a better ear to be able to help them manage and navigate in our community when it comes to public safety issues. One of the things that we decided to do was have a business symposium, public safety business symposium. That's going to be March 19th. We are going to have this occur at the community room at Town Center in Fayetteville. It's 9 a.m. to noon. It's for businesses and members of our business community from our villages and town. And we have a couple different areas that we're going to, actually 3 different areas that we're going to address. Initially, it's going to be a meet and greet. It's RSVP, so that we can identify who's there, what organizations they're from. We'll have a meet and greet early on. We'll have an introduction. Our first guest speaker is a fantastic investigator from the state police. And he's going to come in and talk about what our community and our region has been seeing as far as crime perpetrated against businesses. So let's talk about your traditional retail theft, your traditional retail shrinkage, which is internal theft as opposed to external theft, forgery and fraud, some of the latest bank scams, some things that are going on in relation to how they're affecting our business community. Our second piece is going to be one of our members from the Town of Manlius Police Department. He's going to be talking about when do you call the police, and when you call them, what to expect. Let's demystify the process. Let folks know truly how this works and encourage them to get us involved, early on when they feel that something is not true. And so much of that also is about what those companies' policies are. So helping them understand that they should have a healthy understanding of what their own organization's policies are relative to these types of situations. Right? And then lastly, we have one of our police officers who's also a member of our crisis intervention team is going to talk about de-escalation, dealing with difficult people. We want to give them some tools on the tool belt so that they can take back with them to make them maybe a little bit better communicator and a little bit more safe in their environment should they have these issues. We know they are because we're responding to them. But these are like 30 to 40 minute, little symposium classes with a little Q&A in the end, and then it's over. And then we'll gauge it from there. I'm hoping to do something similar in the fall and maybe open it up a little bit larger and include some other organizations, to include maybe the district attorney's office, some other places that can answer questions, okay, I'm a business, I'm a victim of crime, do I have a say in the criminal prosecution of things? What about my property? When can I get a property release? Because they stole these items, the police recovered them, they're in the property room, but they're doing nothing for me, and I'd like to sell those items, or things like that. So we're looking at ways in which to improve the product even before we deliver our first. But that'll be, again, March 19th.
What time you said you?
That's gonna be from 9 to noon, like 9 to 9:15 will be sign in, coffee, meet and greet. So we'll get really started at 9:15. Then I have a little straight from there. In collaboration with our organization, the Syracuse University Maxwell School's Community Link Program is providing a survey focused on the needs of our business community. As it really, we talked about before, as it relates to the services and concerns and solutions and successes in regards to public safety, what can law enforcement do for them? And we're hoping to use that information to expand and be surgical about it, deal with the issues with crime prevention, to reduce loss by theft, but also opportunities and partnerships to decrease victimization in our community. A vibrant business community is a vibrant community. And as a police department, I think that we have to spend a little bit more time on understanding what their concerns are so that we're flexible enough and have the resources to be able to manage them. Our PDA Awards dinner is scheduled for April 20th at the Link Civic Village. I know that's the Fayetteville Fire Dinner. I understand it's in conflict.
Yeah, last year.
Yeah. I'm happy to say
6 p.m. you said?
I'm
Chief?
sorry?
6 p.m. you said?
I'm not sure the time, but I think it is right around there, and I'll make sure we get that information out. And when that stuff comes up, the PDA's dinner, as soon as the official information comes out, I'll push it out. Allison, I'm pleased to say that News Channel 9's Kristen Casciano's agreed to be our MC for the night, and we also have, our football favorite from Syracuse University, Don McPherson, that's going to speak as our keynote speaker. So we're really excited to have Don with us. New York State's aggressive driving campaign, their enforcement campaign, it's going to be March 17th to 23. I always like to let everybody know that this is a time in which that there'll be extra patrols on in order to focus on aggressive driving traits. And aggressive driving is not just I'm speeding or I'm passing or I'm blinking. It's also utilizing the phone while you're operating. There's other things that are considered to be a part of the aggressive driving campaign that will be focused on. And when I say we put out extra patrols, I like to let everybody know what we're doing. Because what we want is willing cooperation. That's all we want. I wouldn't care if we wrote another ticket. If folks thought about what they were doing and operated within the law, that's exactly what we're after, that willing cooperation. So we like to let folks know what we're doing and that we'll be out in force. Our open house for the police department is scheduled for May 18th. That's hot off the press. We just figured that out. It's going to be, I think, at 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. And it's also going to coincide with the village of Manlius and some of their operations that day. I believe there's a fishing tournament, and some other things. And last year, when we brought those two things together, it really worked out very well. And we had a great crowd and a lot of fun. Our command staff, when I say command staff, I use terms like supervisory staff and command staff. So our supervisors, our first line supervisors are our sergeants in the town of Manlius Police Department, and our commanders are lieutenants and captains. So our command staff, 2 captains and a lieutenant. We also sent one of our officers, which is actually the officer that is getting promoted tomorrow, to attend the FBI Law Enforcement Education Leadership class that presented in Syracuse. Doesn't usually come to Syracuse. We had an opportunity for them. That really right there means that our commanders, all 3 commanders, since April of last year, have been able to attend the entry level, mid-level, and executive level of the FBI LEADA. It's called the Trilogy in Leadership and Command. That's a big feat for us. And for ongoing training to ensure that we have the proper leadership and management that we need not only now, but into the future. And then we added our one officer, because this was an intro, this was sergeant's, a first line supervisory class. And we added him to that, and it worked out very well for him because he was officer promotable. So we're kind of changing, and I'm changing the way we look at this. I grew up in an Army family, and my father, when he retired from the Army, I was in the police departments already. And what I watched from him was the military, even then, was constantly training prior to promotion. And for some reason in our world, the police world, we do leadership and supervisory training after we decide whether or not you get figured out. Doesn't make a lot of sense. So what we're doing is we're reversing that trend. We're identifying the folks that have clearly demonstrated that they have talent and interest to pursue leadership within the organization. We're engaging them early, and we're giving them opportunities to learn and to hone their skills before their name pops up in the top 3 of the sergeants. I don't think the probationary period after a promotion is a good time to decide whether or not someone will sink or swim. Because if you do have to end someone's promotion in a probationary period, they're usually not recoverable. My experience has taught me. So why won't we do everything we can to give our people the skills and abilities necessary to make them successful before they even get to that point? So we're not only have we been doing that, but we're stepping that up a notch, because leadership is what makes or breaks the day. Let's see, we are going through our CALIA review for the year, and we are busy ensuring that success. It is a off-site CALIA review by an off-site reviewer. Nonetheless, we had to review what we're doing, go through a process. We do a strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats matrix, and work on a number of different things with them. It's been a good process. We are in a very good place. We continue to be in a very good place, and I'm very confident that this will go very well. Lots of community events happening that we talked about, but also on March 13th, we're collaborating and presenting at ESM High School regarding healthy habits through HEAL Onondaga County. You've seen that we've had those multiple events in regards to our fraud series at our local libraries for our seniors. And we're working with our private partners through the CARE team through Le College to provide that. They're also providing free AV support to be able to film some of these so we can push them out through social media and have that and I think you've heard me talk about this before. I'm very keen on public-private partnerships. These are the things that together will get us over the top, and hence why I'm also engaging with our business community. I think you've seen from the emails and some of the news reports that we have in a very short period of time been encountering some national level criminal activity that's been occurring inside of our town. We did very well. We've identified a number of things that have been occurring here. They're having to do with fraud and forgery attempts in the banks using false identification and such. Yesterday, we had a burglary on Coventry during the day, daytime burglary. We're going to be putting out some information. These are professional gangs, not from here. They're hitting specific residences. I can't share everything with you. We're going to share more on media. That'll come out to you before the media does. But understanding that these are professionals. This is what these people do for a living. We were able to take one in custody, fleeing a vehicle by some heads-up police work by our people down the street and around the corner, who ended up having a detainer on him from ICE, an immigration hold, and he was still out and perpetrating. We were able to build a case, and at this time, he's at the Justice Center, and I'm not sure of what will happen at that point, because there's federal and local involved. We did our job, and we did it well. You'll be seeing some press go out. We'll get it to you. It's been a long day. We had a fatal accident on Salt Springs Road early today, fatal car crash. And we'll get you more information on that. And you know, I'm very keen on pushing that information out to you through Sergeant Hatter. So I always make sure that Ken has the freedom and the backing from me to make sure that information gets to you, your villages, ahead of time. So we will, my thought process is you're getting that now, correct?
Yep.
You know, so if we need to add people onto it or whatever through email, we'll make sure that we do that. I can use that sheet, just make sure that we have that. And does anybody have anything for me?
The press releases are honestly, they're very well crafted. They're very well done. I mean, they're always just the facts. They're respectful of potential victims. They're just really well done. So hand it to them.
Yeah, I will. It's clearly not me, it's the team, and the team does a very good job with it. You know, again, we hit snags every once in a while, and we're trying to figure out something new, and then we work through them. And I think as an organization have enough humility and resilience to not be afraid to ask the tough questions. Why? What did we do well? What didn't we do well? And then investigate that, and then fix what we can fix. You know, we had a situation in which we did some great police work, and we were able to truly make some impacts for people. And then we encountered some stiff resistance from some of our partners. And what we found was we didn't have to put ourselves in those situations if we were just a little bit sharper on some of the other things that we did. So why did we figure that out? Because we stop and we say, the old adage, I'm not gonna go knock on my neighbor's door and complain that their yard is 2.5 feet high when mine is 2.5 feet high also. So let's find out where we're at and attend to the things we can attend to be the best we can be. And then we can help our partners and those around us understand what our concerns are.
Thank you, Chief. Anyone have any questions or further input? Tom? All right, with that, I guess we look for a motion to adjourn this month's police committee meeting.
Motion? Need a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Tom.
Tom.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks, Tom.